Oh, yeah. It's your old Uncle Trav here. Yep, we are back for some more campaign notes, folks. Helping make your tabletop role playing games fire. Of course, you know the rules. I'm not getting compensated by anybody I talk about because I'm doing this to help y'all out. I'm not affiliated with TriTac Games at all. Just I give them major love because they shape many of my games. You get a twofer tonight, folks. Double topic night. Might be doing this more often if I find a topic that I can't talk about for 2 hours straight. I'll throw them together. Alignments, which you're going to have in most role playing games. It is the code of conduct or lack of code of conduct that your characters will have. And actually, this came to me today, this other topic converting modules to other genres. Because I got campaign ideas, folks. I'm going to die before I get all the campaign ideas out of my head played at a table. The Legendary Planet Adventure Path from, I believe, Legendary Games deals with, you start out with, oh, it's a small town and, there's a virus going around. It's making people crazy and whatnot. And you end up dealing with Dyson spheres and alien races and whatnot. I thought that'd be a good bureau campaign. Converting that to modern day American small town, and just it started flowing. So that is my other topic tonight: converting modules and what are now known as adventure paths to other genres. I'm going to most likely using the example fantasy to modern. You could do it post-apocalyptic, you do it far future, whatever. So, for the old school RPG report, I have two things, and yes, they are old school because one's probably at least 10 years old. The other one, it's in its second edition, but technically it started in the 70s. So we are just going to get these out of the way now. Got to keep that chat room going, folks. Helps the algorithm. For alignments, we have the second edition of the Palladium Fantasy Role-Playing Game by Kevin Sabita, a man who works just down the street from me. Palladium Books is about 10 minutes that way. I'm in Westland, Michigan, suburban Detroit. Now, in the 70s, well, you had D&D, and as they say on Austin Powers, and that's about it. Kevin Simbita and his friend, his gaming group known as the Defilers, of which my dear late friend Terry Williams, who later worked extensively with Richard Tucholka and TriTac, was one of those Defilers. If you go and get the old Mechanoid Invasion books from Palladium and you look at the map of Gideon E and you find Lake Williams, that was named after my friend Terry Williams. Anyways, Kevin Simbita wanted D&D, but he didn't want everything to be based on how much you killed. He didn't want to have a bunch of murder hobos. And you got to admit, D&D throughout the years, you look at the experience charts, and I'm not sure about 4 or 5e because I don't do 4 or 5e, but at least through the first 3 editions of D&D and into Pathfinder first edition, it's based on your kill ratio. The more powerful your opponent you kill, the more experience you get. Simbita and his boys, the late great Julius Rosenstein, Alex Marsigeton, Terry Williams, Matthew Ballant, I believe Steve Shearing, which is kind of a no-no name these days in Palladium House. They wanted you to get experience on thinking. You would get experience if you killed a creature, but he does it, and I haven't done Palladium in a long time. I believe my first Robotech Nightbane mashup world was Palladium, and I actually used those rules, and everybody's like, yeah, we like your D20 stuff better. Okay, fine. But Simbita and his group, the Defilers, wanted to gain experience for using their brains, outwitting their opponents. If they had, killing was the last resort. Richard Tucholkin Tritech also based his experience system for the old Tritech system for Bureau 13, Fringeworthy, FTL 2448, and Incursion. You don't get as much experience for killing. Now, if it's a powerful enemy and it's something you wouldn't normally kill and you're going to get experience. But he wants you to think. Simbita wants you to think. So he made the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game. Now, the second edition, they cleaned it up. They added some other things. I don't believe they use PPE, Potential Psychic Energy, which is the spell point system that the Megaversal system now uses. But Kevin Simbita made his own game world, the Palladium world. It has 2 continents. It has human empires, dwarven, elven, very few gnomes, no halflings, and there were no half-breeds. You don't have half-elves, half-orcs, half-dragons. He didn't want that. All the races were genetically non-compatible because he didn't want that hybridization. Well, I have a half-dragon, half-werewolf. He put a nix on that. But the Palladium world has, and he's got probably a couple dozen books on the various worlds that, or the various nations that, and the places like the Kingdom of Wyota, Mount Nimro, which is sort of the fire giant area, the Western Empire, Eastern Empire, the Flonry Isles. So, the reason why I'm bringing in the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game tonight, because his alignment system is a little different than your 9-point lawful, neutral, chaotic, good, neutral, evil axis that we all know from OGL. So I'm going to be trying to compare and contrast the two in a bit. Of course, PalladiumBooks.com is where you can get the Palladium books. I'm not sure on when their next open house is. I didn't go to the recent one because of, Dorona. I've been to Palladium's, as I said, because I live 10 minutes away, and I've known Kevin on and off for like 25 years. He calls me the local Polak because he saw my one buddy, Sven of the Lemming, Steve Day. He's like, "Where are you guys from?" You're always 10 minutes down the road. Kevin grabs my badge and moves out of the way and sees my last name, Pulaski, which is a Polish name. Oh, and you're Polish too. So I'm now known as, and around Palladium Books, as the local Polak. I've since visited a couple times to Kevin, and he kind of gave me an open offer. If you buy a book and it's new, come in, we'll autograph for you. So yeah, Kevin knows me, I know him, and of course I knew Rich, so he knows that I worked for his competitor. And there was one time actually, the early days of Robotech RPG Tactics, Kevin looked at me and said, we could use some help boxing up this stuff, sending out. He goes, "I feel so horrible, Trav. I am so sorry." Don't, no, I'm honored that you said that, but I'm kind of still, because the Gaming on the Frontier podcast was still technically with Tritech. I can't do it. It would not. No, I still kind of work for your competitor. We'd sort of, at the very least, a friendly rivalry. And I shook his hand and I thanked him. But yeah, the Palladium Fantasy Roleplay, and of course it's into the Megaversal system. So you could have Palladium Fantasy characters go to Rifts, Heroes Unlimited, Nightbane, Dead Rain, Ninjas and Super Spies. And within the various books, including, Ninjas and Super Spies, Nightbane, and I believe the Rift's first conversion book, and I think the second conversion book, Dark Conversions, which allows for Nightbane, you can get conversions. Okay, I want to bring my Palladium Fantasy character into Rifts. Okay, fine. After a while, these are the skills that they learn based on their occupational character classes, or OCCs, which would be like a class in OGL. So yeah, the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game, go to PalladiumBooks.com. They are, as I said, they're based in Westland, Michigan. Kevin was originally downtown in Detroit and then for a long time in Taylor. And now he's been at this Westland, oh God, at least 10 years. Every time I go get my favorite rum, I drive by the little industrial park that he's on Web Drive. And I look and I see the back door of the place. Oh yeah, I remember, And the staff is wonderful. They're good. Yeah. So PalladiumBooks.com for the Palladium Fantasy Role-Playing Game, 2nd edition. Now, The other thing I'm reviewing, it's a PDF, so I had to print out the cover. This one has to do with tonight's other topic, which is converting modules to other genres. Now, years ago, I started gaming in the Star Trek Kelvin universe because in Portals 3 from Tritech Games, Rich basically plopped the Star Trek Kelvin universe in. So it was at least 2009, 2010 when he did that, because the first Kelvin movie with Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Simon Pegg, that came out in 2009. And he did mention the flavor text Star Trek Kelvin universe, but you read the actual world and you know it's the Riverside Casino where Chris Pine's character got his ass whipped there in the Riverside Cafe. Now, this group of modules, it is called Dungeon Interludes by Jason Little. It is from Goodman Games. It is a 6-module pack. I mean, it's one book, but it's 6 separate adventures, and they're all linked. As you go, you gain levels. It's from 1st to 13th level. In Pathfinder, they call them adventure paths. And it's weird. Usually 6 seems to be the magic number with that, I've noticed. In Legendary Planet from Legendary Games. Dungeon Interludes here that I just showed you. All the damn adventure paths for Pathfinder 1st Edition. 6 seems to be the magic number. I guess it's an industry standard, folks. But this one, okay, it is based on the Dungeon Crawl Classics world of Aerith. And if you go to goodman-games.com, I believe they still have the map of Aerith. And it's your typical fantasy world. The map is beautiful. And you have your various lands. Now, I've used the Goodman Games Aerith world on 2 occasions. One, for the particular Star Trek Kelvin campaign, where it was a bunch of cadets on a cadet cruise. And I converted it to, oh no, they're not magical creatures. It's all science, nanotech, and whatnot, and genetic engineering. It was one of the preservers / seeders world. If you look on Memory Alpha, the beings that spread humanity all over the universe, so you have all these human-compatible races. And then I used it again in my FTL 2448 game, where Fur played a version of Uhtred from the Last Kingdom. Yeah, see, you knew I'd bring you up. And it was that same world, Aerith. Now, for that campaign, I just made everything sci-tech and extremely high-tech. So, the spells were all sci. So, Dungeon Interludes by Jason Little for Goodman Games. I believe you can still go to goodman-games.com and get that module. If not, you can go to the onebookshelf.com stores and get that module. Go to their page for Goodman Games, and they should have it all there. All of their modules are on the same world. All the OGL modules are for Aerith, and I believe now that they do 5 edition, I think they're for Aerith as well. Aereth. Now, Old School RPG Report is done. These 2 products that I reviewed briefly, because they both deal with tonight's topics. Now, the first one is alignments. Your code of conduct, or rather your lack of code of conduct for your character. And all of us gamers have done it. We've sat there and we've said, okay, what alignment would I be based on what's said here? I consider myself neutral good. I think a lot of people consider themselves, well, a lot of people are going to, well, I'm lawful good. I do all this. You blow through yellow lights. You'll do the 3-second California rolling stop before you turn. That's neutral good. You're breaking small laws, but you're still keeping the big laws in effect. I love the thing for cat, and I have a coffee mug, and I should have brought it with me. And an old girlfriend got it for me. It says, chaotic neutral. I like to keep all my choices on the table. It's like the meme with Dorothy from Golden Girls. I'll either get ice cream or kill somebody. I'll decide in the car. Chaotic neutral. You just throw something to the wind and say, screw it, falls where it may, and I'll do that. It's like you throw a tarot deck in the air and let it fall and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do today based on how the cards landed on the floor. Yeah, that's chaotic neutral. Now, in OGL, D&D, Pathfinder First Edition, not in D20 Modern, they went with allegiances there. You picked 3 allegiances in the order that you follow them the most. And a lot of times they said, well, if you're a D&D character and you're converting to D20 Modern, you pick your alignment as your first 2 allegiances, then like a group or a standard or something. Oh no, Alexis is chaotic neutral. Yes, Fur's daughter. The 9-year, yeah, we're in it. The 9-year-old. As opposed to 12-year-old son, unfailingly and unsurprisingly lawful good. If he does make a mistake, he will rat himself out. He just celebrated his 12th birthday last week. But no, the daughter, again, the 9-year-old, chaotic neutral. So in OGL, D&D, what have you, you have your basic 9 alignments, and they run along a moral and ethical axis. The ethical one is lawful, neutral, chaotic. The moral is good, neutral, and evil. So if you do the crosshairs, you get 9. It's like Hollywood squares. You know, kind of like those memes of all the people indicted in Georgia last week. I said what I said. Anyways. Now, the 9 alignment table you have is lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good. Lawful neutral, true neutral, chaotic neutral. Alexis. The 9-year-old. Then you have lawful evil, neutral evil, chaotic evil. Now, the reason why I brought up the Palladium Fantasy Role-Playing Game 2nd Edition is that Kevin rolls a little differently. He didn't like that alignment system. He thought it was too confining or it didn't fit more real-world alignments. So Kevin and his people, the Defilers, they came up with Principled and Scrupulous, which are your good alignments. Unprincipled and Anarchist, which are more your neutral alignments. And then your evil alignments are Miscreant, Aberrant, and Diabolic. Now, compare and contrast, because they're similar to the 9, but there's some wiggle room. Now, we're going to go through the 9. Lawful Good, commonly known as Lawful Boring. Your paladins, clerics of good gods, the people who are often depicted as Mr. or Ms. Sweetness and Light and all is happy and joyful. Epiphany from Nodwick would be lawful good, with her Boy Scout. Yes, thank you, dear. Your typical Boy Scout. And the number 1 superhero that is lawful good, and we will use the new DC motto for him, Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. Superman. Clark Kent, Kal-El. Lawful good. He doesn't break the laws, he enforces them. He wants everybody to live in society peacefully. And if you're starting shit, then he will use his powers, often at a minimum, because he knows normal people are crunchy and break easily. The scene, and a lot of people give Superman Returns with Brandon Routh a lot of shit. I remember seeing it. I had an old girlfriend, my last live-in, who didn't know anything about Superman. So me, my dear friend Blasted Bill Putt, who co-created Dementia Radio, where I do the Travcast, I think there was about 10 of us, and I remember River Girl was dressed up as Supergirl, and I adore River Girl, Anna Carey, just sweetheart. I miss her dearly, I haven't seen her in a long time, her husband Ryan. So I took Linda, or White Jedi as she was known on my show. We all went to see Superman Returns. And there is that one scene that proves just how powerful Superman is. It is the scene where they are on the roof, and the guy has the Gatling gun. And you see the bullet hit Brandon Routh's Superman's eye, and it just bends on his eyeball. Superman has to be lawful good. we've seen what happens when Superman is no longer lawful good, i.e., the Injustice storyline, the Injustice game, the Injustice timeline in Batman v Superman, where he rips Batman's heart out of his chest there in the movie. Ben Affleck is there, like this, and Cavill just reaches right in. Oh, here we go with this motherfucking shit right here. That's why Henry Cavill wasn't sexy as Superman. He was too good. That was the point of him being Superman, dear. No. Fur enjoys Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia, and she mourns the fact that he will no longer be in the role. So I sat her down and had her watch Man of Steel. I didn't like it. What do you mean? He's there all... I didn't like it. And I look at my girlfriend of 5 years, I go, laser-fitted, muscle-tight suit. I didn't like it. Oh, Jesus Christ almighty. I feel like, Luther. Not starting up with these motherfuckers right here, walking off, just... So, yeah, Superman. He is lawful good. He is the ultimate Boy Scout. He always follows the rules, but because of his powers, he has to. There are very few times in comics, movies, or TV where Superman gets to cut loose, and usually you see why he has to hold back and be lawful good. Because he will break people and buildings and planets, especially pre-crisis. So that's lawful good, and in Palladium's game, that would be principle. He's too proper, too clean cut. He's Clark Kent, dear. He was raised as a farm boy in, your kind of environment, dear. Just that farm environment. Yeah, I said what I said. Give it about 5 seconds, there's going to be swear words in my chat. Anyways. Yep. Fuck, and wait, here we go. Yep, see? Yep, the Trav and Fur show out here on Twitch, folks. This is why I love her. We are both very predictable. We know each other that well. Anyways, so principle would be in Simbita's Palladium alignments, lawful good. Okay, now we have neutral good. Where? Shut up.